Okay, hi. I've done quite a lot of YouTube videos in the last 3 years. But when I say quite a lot, not loads, but most of them I don't really share anymore with the public. I have continued with them, but yeah, most of them I just kind of put them on with a link if I want to share it with a few people or privately. But the reason I do it is that because the last 3 years have been just so pivotal and transformational and weird. And it's been really interesting from a sort of psychological, societal point of view as well. Just it's been really interesting seeing how people have behaved in different ways. But the reason I've done that is really to just journal my experiences throughout the last 3 years because they have really been so extraordinary. And it's quite interesting is when I go back to videos that I've made, there are bits in it that I had kind of forgotten about. And, situations or things that had been put forward by the government or things that people had said or the way that myself or people around me have been treated or words that have been said. And we do that, we actually forget what we don't want to remember. Because I guess it's a coping strategy. We have to deal with everyday stuff, so the thing that is painful we move away from, and that's a very normal human trait, and most of the time it serves us. For example, nurses or doctors, any medic, need to deal with sometimes really horrific situations and very tragic situations, but because they're dealing with it on an ongoing basis, there has to be some kind of coping mechanism whereby they have to switch off. And I remember seeing that with my dad when my dad was dying, and the nurses were on automatic until it was just me and my dad. My dad was not compos mentis at the time; he was in a dreadful state. But it was raining, and it was August, or maybe it was July actually, but in the UK, and I was looking out the window, and this nurse was just fiddling around, and she was just on automatic. She said, "Oh yeah, somebody said that you and your family live in New Zealand," and she was chatting away, and all I could think about was the state that I found my dad in, and the fact that he was in such a bad way that I didn't even recognize my own dad. And this massive wave of grief overcame me, and I'm looking out the window. I couldn't even look at this nurse, and I just, my shoulders must have suddenly started to shake, and I just had this moment of a real outpouring of grief. And I was trying to respond to the nurse, but I couldn't speak. And at that point, she became very human. And at that point, I could see that she was really moved, and the empathy was there suddenly. It suddenly hit her that someone was going through the experience of losing their father, and it brought it home to her, I think. And I don't blame her for or any nurse or any doctor for kind of distancing yourself from the emotion of what you're dealing with on a daily basis, because that's what you have to do. So it's kind of what I'm saying is that we as humans do that, as a survival tool, really. Same with soldiers, I guess. That they can't go around just killing people willy nilly. There's got to be a defense mechanism where they switch off, and there's something else takes over. So so it can serve us, but it also can go against us in a way. And on a personal level, the emotion that we carry, or the trauma that we carry, we hold it physically within the body. So for example, grief, I had an awful lot of issues around my breathing apparatus, the intercostal muscles. After my dad died, that was on and off. I was getting these issues, and I knew, because I've always been pretty switched on to that kind of thing, that this was connected with the grief of losing my dad. And but I mean, it could show, so heart and lungs connected with grief, or loss. People that have problems in the eyes could be related to something you don't want to see, or something you're not willing to see. Same with the ears. It can be not willing to hear something. The throat issues, this is a real common one, and I think it's going to be really showing itself as well with certain groups of people. It is people can get throat cancer and all sorts of issues with their throat, laryngitis, because they haven't been able to tell their story. They haven't been able to speak. They haven't been listened to. They've been silenced. So that can manifest in issues with the throat. And shoulders, issues with shoulders, carrying the burden, carrying the pain. And so I could go on, but you get the picture. Now, I think most people now, when this stuff was kind of being pioneered by people like Louise Hay and there's a few others whose names escape me, but 20-30 years ago, this stuff was being talked about, and many people thought that you were a bit out there to make that connection with emotions and body. But now I think people are really beginning to get that, and I certainly address that within my own yoga practice and pranayama breathing practice, but also within my classes as well. And I try and help people to just become aware of what's going on in the body, and ask the questions that actually just create dialogue with your own body, because your body has an incredible intelligence, and I've always said that. But anyway, I kind of digress. So we do this at a personal level. We hold emotion, we hold trauma, and that can create so emotional dis-ease creates, or can create, physical dis-ease if we don't address it. I'm sorry about the banging. It's got really windy here, and I'm upstairs with the door open because it's hot, but it's getting a bit stormy out there, so I hope it's not too distracting. Okay, so my feeling is that this is happening at a societal level now, at a sort of a collective level. Is there are a lot of people, I think a huge number of people who have gone along with everything in the last 3 years over the COVID period, and I guess sort of followed orders, being good citizen and doing what they've been told, but who are now beginning to be aware of the fact that it's not all as it seems, and that maybe we've been fed a few lies, and maybe we haven't been told the whole truth, to put it mildly. I think a lot of people are actually waking up to that, or they have an awareness of it, but it's kind of like, they're not ready to really fully awaken to it. And I think I'm going to have to put something between the doors. That's just annoying. I'm sorry. Hang on. Oh, that didn't work. I just lost the yoga block. Hang on. It's so windy. I'm sorry. I apologise. That should stop it. And that kind of, I'm not ready to look at the dark stuff yet. That's what's happening, and that is, I mean, I've seen it through people's anger. Have I ever? In the last 3 years, I've definitely been the target of that. But I mean, I'm kind of, oh, I have my moments, all right. You know, I have my moments where I was like, it would really, really upset me, and people that I knew really well, and I thought knew me really well, would be just coming up with labels, and that's another defense mechanism, because the thing is, if you don't want to look at something that you don't want to look at, right, you will put everything onto the other person, because then it kind of gives you immunity, or you know, it's like, well, I don't have to look at it because it's they're the crazy, they're just talking crazy. Oh god, I mean, we all know what the labels are now, don't we? You know, obviously the conspiracy theorist. That's wearing a bit thin now though, because most of them have become true. But the far right thing, that was a one for a while. White supremacist was another one. Racist. I mean, just crazy stuff. People know. If you know me, you know I'm not any of those things. I mean, I probably am a conspiracy theorist. Of course, I've got a very critical mind. I question everything. I always have. But the other labels are just nonsense. Oh, just complete and utter nonsense. And but it's a get out clause, really, for really doing your shadow work, for doing your own work. Because when you start delving deep into that dark stuff, and the, you know, being aware, like allowing yourself to go down a few rabbit holes, to actually explore, well, what if, okay, what if what we're being told is not true? If you let yourself go down a few rabbit holes, you're opening up quite a lot of stuff that's hard to look at, and not just outside of yourself, but within your own self. Because you have to question, well, why have I allowed this in my life? Why have I let this happen? Why did I go along with it when actually none of it's making any sense? But I don't really want to dwell on that. I just wanted to say, you know, it's interesting. So I have had one response is anger, and that's really connected with the base chakra, because that's a very, very physical response because people go into fear, and so from that people go into anger when their safety and when their safety is threatened. And it doesn't matter if you're not the one perpetrating the bad stuff. If you're the one that's talking about it, you're in the firing line, because you're prodding them, really, and sort of triggering them. So it's a really normal response to, if you're in that fear, because you've been listening to all the fear-based stuff that we've been bombarded with. Your mind will close down. Again, it's like another way that the mind closes down and protects itself, because you go into this survival mode, which is very, very much connected with the base chakra, which is very, very much a physical response rather than a non-physical response. But I'll come to that in a minute. Or it's connected with sacral, which is all about, how do I deal with this? I'm going to distract myself. I'm going to follow my joy. I'm going to follow the pleasure. I'm going to distract myself by creating lots of holidays or things to do, or connect with other people that aren't going on about all this stuff that, you know, people like me are going on about. I'm going to connect with them because it's easier to... I want to live in a happy world, you know, don't we all? So I get that, but that's all connected with sacral, which is yeah, pursuit of pleasure, and when it's not in balance, it's addiction and stuff like that. So it got me thinking about when when Jazz and I were first married. Well, sorry, when we were first married. For our honeymoon, we went to Australia and we did this incredible walk called the Miracle Mile. It was pretty dangerous, actually. I wouldn't do it now. I definitely wouldn't do it now. It was really dangerous in some places. But there was this one part of the walk where you kind of walking down this canyon sort of thing, like a rock valley canyon sort of place. And then you came out to an opening and it was quite high up. And then there was this very dark, I want to say lagoon, but that sounds quite tropical, but this was really cold. I mean, it was a very deep pool in the high up in this canyon place, and it was cold, and we were warned it was very cold. And the only way to get through was to leap either from a 5-meter ledge or a 10-meter or 8-meter, and it was high. Now, I'm really scared of jumping into water from any height, even if it's not super cold. So I was really scared, but I ended up being the first one to edge along this ledge, and so I had to be the first one to go. And I remember standing on the edge of this ledge, and the guide, I can't remember his name, it's not Cameron, anyway, doesn't matter, was saying, okay Jane, come on, he was sort of giving me this pep talk, and I could see from his face that he was willing me to just be confident and to show because the others were all who were behind me were like quite scared about jumping in. So I was kind of clinging to the rock for a while, and all of this stuff going on in my head, like that was the worst part. The worst part is before you take that leap. That's when everything is going. Your mind is going on overdrive, isn't it? And you're just thinking of all the worst case scenarios, and none of it's really making any sense, but still you're just caught in this fear. But anyway, I knew I had to go because I couldn't go back because I was stuck. I was the one on the edge, and there were like 5 people to my left, and so I had to go. I had to jump. And it was really cold, and I went quite deep under the water before I popped up, and I couldn't catch my breath because it was so cold. But it was a shock to the system, but it was nothing that I thought it. I don't know what I thought it was, but it was, I was fine, and it was really exhilarating and fun. And I think that's the thing I think that's where a lot of people are at the moment, is they're on this ledge. They can see the water. They can see the darkness in the water. They can see that it's not comfortable. And they're clinging to this precipice of what they think is the safety, the safe shore, or what's safe. But it's temporary, and I think people know that it's temporary, and at some point they have got to take that leap of faith and jump off the ledge and just go into the dark waters. And that's really where we are. I think a lot of people are stuck there on that ledge, and they don't want to go. So if this resonates at all, and if you might be someone who's jumped into the water, and you're able to sit on the bank with me and try and encourage the others to leap into the water, because we know it's going to be fine. But we've all got to do this together, because we can't carry on with that Miracle Mile walk until everybody has jumped into the water. So if you are someone who feels that maybe you're still on the ledge of what you think is safety but isn't, just take that leap of faith, and maybe go and seek out all of those incredible people who have risked everything to give you the truth, who have who've been cancelled and demonized, because I guarantee that they are the ones who are coming from a place of absolute integrity and love and service to others. And it may not be a comfortable truth, and it may seem really scary, but it is time, because we don't have much more of it, don't have much more time to cling to the ledge.